Invisible killers in the wild, how to detect dangers before they detect you. Welcome back to Extreme Outdoor Survival. If you're serious about real-world survival, history, and the lessons carved into the bones of past expeditions, you're in the right place. Before we dive deep, subscribe if you haven't already. This channel isn't about fantasy survival. It's about what actually keeps people alive in places where mistakes don't get second chances. Let's talk about something most manuals gloss over. In the wild, what kills first is often not what you see. It's what you don't notice, underestimate, or dismiss. Cold is obvious. Predators are obvious. Cliffs are obvious. The invisible killers are subtle. Bad judgment, hidden terrain traps, quiet medical threats, and micro-decisions that slowly corner you. History is full of expeditions that marched straight into disaster, not because nature was cruel, but because the warning signs were there and went unread. Today we're going to focus on how to detect dangers before they detect you, and how to apply practical threat assessment in real wilderness environments. Let's start with the most common invisible killer, hypothermia, that doesn't look dramatic at the beginning. It rarely starts with violent shivering in a snowstorm. It often begins with wet socks, wind exposure, and stubbornness. A person feels fine, keeps moving, ignores early numbness or clumsiness, and the cognitive decline sets in quietly. The mind slows before the body fails. Detecting this threat early means treating moisture, wind, and fatigue as active enemies, not just inconveniences. Change socks when they get wet. Block the wind, even if the temperature feels tolerable. If speech becomes slow or decision-making feels foggy, stop and address heat loss immediately. A practical example. On a cold ridge line, you stop for a 5-minute break. You don't insulate. Wind strips your body heat. That break costs more energy than the hike itself. Early hypothermia has begun. Threat detected in time is threat neutralized. Another invisible danger is dehydration in cold climates. People expect thirst in the desert. They don't expect it in snow country. Cold air dries your lungs, heavy clothing increases perspiration, and snow travel burns calories at an extreme rate. People often end up drinking less simply because they don't feel thirsty. But if you look back, the historical polar expeditions kept making this very mistake time and again. The real solution isn't to just drink when you feel like it, but to practice disciplined hydration, not emotional hydration. Always melt water, don't just eat snow. Eating snow, well, it actually speeds up hypothermia. So here's a practical bit of advice. Treat your water intake like a scheduled task, not just something you do as a reaction. And if you notice your urine is dark yellow in winter, you're already behind. Cognitive decline is right on its heels. Now, the terrain itself, it hides another whole category of invisible killers. The ground isn't neutral at all, it sets traps. Avalanche slopes, cornices, and scree fields, they don't exactly announce themselves. Your job is to read them honestly, before they have a chance to read you. So one example to keep in mind, a beautiful open slope of untouched snow is not a gift, it is data. Look for recent slides, whoomp sounds underfoot, cracking slabs, and hollow drum-like snow layers. Those, honestly, are not just academic indicators, they are precursors to burial. The way to apply this knowledge is actually simple and disciplined. Question every slope above 30 degrees. Travel along ridge lines rather than under suspect faces. Cross danger zones one person at a time rather than bunching up and loading the snowpack. You're not being paranoid, you're being, well, statistically alive. Wildlife risk is rarely about cinematic attacks. It is in reality about territory, food storage, and surprise. Animals don't hunt hikers. They defend resources, react to intrusion, and respond to being startled at close range. The invisible threat here is not the animal, it is ignorance of sign. Scat, tracks dug up earth, carcasses cached beneath debris, and strong musky smells all indicate proximity. If you see these, treat the area like a loaded weapon. Change direction, make controlled noise, and avoid blind corners. One practical example. Moving through dense brush silently may feel tactical, but it actually increases the chance of surprising a large animal at close distance. Controlled sound advertises your presence and prevents ambush encounters. Survival isn't about stealth, it's about awareness. Then there is the psychological invisible killer tunnel vision. People die not because they lacked tools, but because they emotionally committed to a plan that nature had already vetoed. Summit fever, insisting on continuing the route, refusing to turn back because of time invested. These appear again and again in historical survival tragedies. The way to detect this threat is, well, through brutally honest self-audit. Ask yourself, if someone else were making this decision with my exact conditions, would it look reckless? If the answer is yes, you are in tunnel vision. The survival action here is course correction, not justification. A concrete step you can take is to set turnaround times and stick to them, even if the goal is close. External rules save lives when internal judgment is, compromised. Water crossings are another hidden danger that, honestly, many people underestimate. The threat is not just about depth alone. It's current force, temperature, and the risk of foot entrapment. Clear mountain water might look harmless, but it actually carries massive power. Crossing where water narrows increases both speed and force. And crossing in boots with loose laces, well, that really increases your entrapment risk. A practical, safer approach is to cross wide, shallow, slower sections and, importantly, unbuckle your pack so you can ditch it if you fall. That choice alone has, in fact, been the difference between life and death in countless cases. Finally, infection is, well, an invisible threat that modern people often forget exists. When there aren't any hospitals nearby, even a small cut from dirty gear or a river rock can, become a systemic problem in just a few days. Real wilderness survival, honestly, means early cleaning, using iodine or alcohol where possible, and not walking your injuries into something worse. If redness spreads, streaks form, or throbbing increases, you really don't have just a scratch anymore. You have a progressing medical threat that needs priority right away. What ties all of this together is actually mindset. Survival isn't about just reacting to disasters. It's about noticing precursors, even while nothing looks catastrophic yet. Think like a historian and a scout, both at the same time. Ask yourself what normally happens next in patterns like this. Respect small warnings as serious indicators. Nature is generous with clues, but absolutely merciless when they're ignored. If content like this sharpens your thinking and equips you for real-world challenges, stay with us. Subscribe to Extreme Outdoor Survival, share this video with people who take wilderness seriously, and keep building a knowledge base that outlives gear trends. The more minds trained to detect danger early, the more stories end in survival, not in reports written later.